For those of you who don't know me, my name's Nancy Schiffman. I'm the Associate Executive Director of Development and Signature Programs at the Stanford JCC, and so incredibly thrilled to have this opportunity this morning for us, in the evening for folks in Israel, to be together. I love the fact that the four of you, which I will introduce in a moment, were able to clear your schedules, your very busy schedules, in order to be with our community once again. We miss you desperately, as you hear, and so it just really thrills us. I just want to say a few words about Tzahal. Those of you who are on mostly know this is a program that is it's deeply enriched and engrossed in the family of Stanford, the families of Stanford. We are so thrilled that it has 43 years of history, and we're looking for the longevity of another 43 plus years for it to continue. It's a wonderful way for us to feel like we're in Israel, close to Israel, connected to Israel through the relationships with these amazing, amazing people. And so because we couldn't be together in person this year, nor could we be last year, but we will next year. It's wonderful to have this opportunity via Zoom. So, thank God for technology, because I really do feel like you're in my living room. So thank you. I want to also do a very special shout out thank you to our co-chairs of this year's and last year's JCC Tzahal Shalom program, Beth Baer, Hope Levinson, and Dana Roth. They have worked hard to put these series of events together and have worked last year to get folks to come, and we will be working for next year. If any of you know any families that would like to be a host family, please let us know. We are really this program is so near and dear to my heart and to all of you that are on today, I'm sure. And so, we're just very blessed, very, very blessed. So with that, I would love to introduce each of our officers for today. So let me start with Menachem. Menachem was in the 2013 delegation. He was hosted by Michal Smart and James Smart. And then we have Rivka, and Rivka was hosted in 2015 by Stella and Isaac Cohen. And then we have Amir, who was also hosted in 2015 by Karen and Larry Cowett. And then we have Yaakov, who also joined us in 2015, and he was hosted by Ivy and Marvin Schilkraut. And we are just absolutely thrilled to have you join us today. Menachem and Yaakov are in the reserves, and they're going to talk a little bit about their reserves experience, as well as their professional career and life, as well as their family. And Rivka and Amir still serve in active duty. God bless them. And so we're going to hear a little bit about what they're up to and what their career, how it's progressed. And I'd love for all of you that are joining us to think about any questions that you might have. There'll be plenty of time for conversation and dialogue. And of course, as usual in Tzahal fashion, if it's a question you can't answer, please let us know and we will pass. But we are just really thrilled. So with that, I'm going to kind of hand it off to Menachem. Let's let the older man, the one that was not here for quite a while, start. We haven't heard from you and seen you in quite a while, so we're thrilled. Take it away.
Wow. Okay. I was hoping not to be first, but anyway.
Informal.
Yes, I was hoping not to go first, but here, that's what happened. But okay. Wow, I see so many familiar faces here, and I'm really, really, really happy to have joined this opportunity. And again, thanks to COVID and thanks to Zoom, otherwise I wouldn't have seen you probably for the next 10 years. Yes, it's since 2013, and I don't know if you guys recall, but I have been also a lone soldier and also an officer at the same time, because I made Aliyah from Germany. And this was like this time when I was still considered as a lone soldier, but then I already became an officer. So I was kind of riding on the double train of both categories. And nowadays, I finished the army in 2015, and I served in Miluim. I do an extensive program of Miluim. I do approximately 50 to 60 days an average every year, which is a lot compared to my other friends. I have done my BA in government and political science here in Herzliya at the IDC, which is the international school here in Israel. And I am married. I'm married to Rachel, who is my wife now, and we've been a couple since, I think, yeah, since the time I made Aliyah from Germany, and she was also with me, accompanying me via a Tzahal program, Tzahal Shalom. So she knows everyone. I spoke with her also with the Smarts, the family that hosted me. So we had a great adventure, and we have two beautiful daughters who are aged 5 and 3 years old, and they're keeping me very busy. And I don't know if you can hear them, but sometimes they're screaming around here. So don't mind the noise that you might probably hear. It's just the time of them getting ready to go to bed. What do I do for a living? Now I work in a very small cyber company. I work as a salesperson. I'm leading the European team. And yes, I'm very, very thrilled and happy to be here with you again, to see all the familiar faces. And yeah, I'm waiting to catch up with you guys.
Thanks. This is great, Menachem. I'm just going to quickly ask you, can you say a little bit more about what you do in terms of your cyber, in your sales? What exactly are you selling? What's the product?
Yes. Well, first of all, it's nice to know that you know the difference between product and service. Yes, we more sell a service of accompanying mostly pro-Israeli organizations. We accompany them with fighting those people that are trying to delegitimize Israeli products. So we kind of do the research analysis for them and kind of warn companies that try to, go to the States and try to be successful in the States. And then you have different organizations that try to encounter them just for being Israelis. So we're there to support them. We do it in a discreet manner. We are not very public, but yeah, it's a very nice opportunity to continue the struggle in terms of, we call it the Blue Network, the power of promoting Zionism in the world. So this is basically continuing whatever I did in the army. So it's more of the same.
Beautiful. Thanks. Thanks for that clarification. That's awesome. That's great. Why don't we hand it over to Rivka?
Yay, the better delegation. No, I'm just kidding.
There's going to be a little infighting here, I see.
Rivka, they had a lone soldier on their program. That beats everyone.
There you go. Jakob, you know the right things to say, always.
We had two.
Delegation, and he's just one. So, to whoever doesn't remember me, Rivka Cohen, now married to Naor. He was in Golani, which we all know and love. Today, I'm the head of the Search and Rescue and Firefighting Doctrine in the Home Front Command. Still in the Home Front Command, can't even think about something else. In the meantime, since I've been there, I also did my second degree and in search and rescue management and all kinds of emergency stuff in the Tel Aviv University. And before that, you know that every 2 years or every 3 years, usually, except for Mamir probably, we change the positions that we are in. So 2 years ago, or even a little bit less than that, I was responsible for the population and operation training of all the tactic forces of search and rescue. That's pretty much it. And I don't have children yet, but something similar that is Babel, that part of you saw, he will come and go. So maybe I will show you him if he wants. He's very shy.
He's a four-legged beauty. Wonderful.
Yeah, look at him. I'm sorry.
You can show him off. He's your baby.
Yeah, I know, but he will come whenever he wants to.
Okay. Wonderful. Thanks, Rivka. Wonderful. Amir, let's hear a little bit about what you've been up to.
Hi everyone, good to see you. I'm nervous. I'm excited. So as far as what I've been doing in 2016, I was on a very long vacation away from the army, and decided to come back that summer. One of the main reasons is I was single at the time. I don't know that decision would have been well accepted today. So I continued my roles. I transferred to the 3rd flotilla, the biggest flotilla we have in the Israeli Navy, which is the missile ships. And last October, I finished my role finally of being missile ship commander, which was a huge, huge thing. One of the probably the biggest duties I will do in my life. We had the whole COVID happening while I was a CO, a commanding officer, which is very challenging. We did not leave the ship for months, did not go home, and we couldn't even walk around the base. We were just on the ship. It was very, very challenging, and taught me a lot. Made me a shrink also. I had to be. And so now I'm a student. I have 1 year from October to October studying Homeland Security and Cybersecurity in Bar Ilan University. We also call this year Wife Appreciation Year, in which I'm dedicating all my time to her and compensating her for being away for so long. And last week, I got appointed to be in the summer, the end of the summer in October, to go down south to Eilat and being the unit commander of the unit that stays in Eilat, the patrol ships. So we'll be transferring there for a year or two, which is also a big, big role. First time for me being a unit commander. And so that's what I've been doing. We have a brand new puppy. His name is Slinky, based on the Toy Story dog. If you know me, I love my cartoons. So
That's perfect.
And yes, since you see me last time, I've been a few times in the States. And of course, I have, if you don't know, I have a room at Karen and Larry's. I have a room. It's mine. It's a piece of real estate I own in the US. And my parents came over and they stayed over at Karen and Larry's because Karen and Larry are angels and they're simply the best. And they came over here to spend a Passover Seder with us. So we really, really love you and it's good to be here.
Wonderful. Oh, wow. This is fantastic. I know people are going to be very interested in
I'm sorry,
hearing.
Karen, don't cry. Okay, promise.
You know what? That ship has sailed, you know? Amir, I'm going to ask you now, I think because everybody, I'm sure, was thinking as you were talking about COVID. Well, you know what? Let's hear from Yaakov, but we're going to come back to you because I'm sure, would love to hear a little bit about how you navigated, so to speak, COVID during, being on the ship. And that must have been, just a horrific experience. But I think that people would be a little curious about how that went, and really for all of you, because I think COVID has been, so prevalent and on all of our minds, really how that has been for all of you. Rivka, you may be able to talk from more of the IDF perspective in terms of how was that navigated and managed, on lands, and it's been quite a year. But let's hear from Yaakov. We're excited to have you.
Hi, so I'll just say, as a speaker, they always say you can never compete with animals and babies, right? So I'll add in soldiers. I have Rivka and Amir here. I'm a reservist. I'm worth nothing here. Everyone wants to hear them.
Not true.
No, I'm kidding.
I know you are.
So I'll say, since Tzahal Shalom in 2015, first of all, I was married. Now I have 3 little daughters. On this Yom Ha'atzmaut, we celebrated the first birthday of the youngest one. She was born on Yom Ha'atzmaut, which is great. especially because we were in the hospital on Yom HaZikaron, and I was like, oh crap, this is not happening to me. I'm not gonna have a daughter born on Yom HaZikaron. So we have one in Yom HaAtzmaut. I retired from the army I left the army at the end of 2016. I serve today in reserve duty as a major in the same unit, in the same tank unit. It's called the 188. I do also about 50 days a year. Half of them I do in my operational job as a combat operations officer. And it's like being a COO of the unit. The second thing I do is I'm a motivational speaker for soldiers. The IDF Educational Corps calls me in, and since they can't afford my fees, what they do is they give me reserve duty. They call me for a day. I come, I meet the unit. It can be, I have military police this week, for example, but it could tanks, fighters, non-fighters, whatever it is. So that's my connection to the IDF on one hand. I'm involved in several organizations, including I run an organization for wounded soldiers. Right now, we're focused a lot on PTSD, trying to help soldiers with PTSD through connections to youth. And last but not least, I run a program called Slingshot, which basically, guess what? It's also connected to the IDF. Basically, what I do is I introduce people. It can be Israeli, it can be Chinese, it could be Americans to the IDF through educational programs. It can be security briefings, geopolitical briefings. It can be talks and programs about moral dilemmas, the IDF values, and even reliving famous IDF battles in very special ways, such as an escape room in a bunker, which really takes people into the dilemmas of the soldiers and teaches them the values that each and every person can take from the IDF.
Amazing. Yaakov, amazing. That is really incredible. I'm going to ask you, have you connected with Matan Samovsky at all in terms of the PTS work that you're doing? Because he's involved in some organization, and I'll connect the two of you, but he's involved in some nonprofit organization that supports and raises awareness about PTSD. I don't know how much, it's not really treatment or services in that way, but it sounds like there's a little bit of an overlap in terms of his volunteerism. So very cool, really exciting stuff. And we'll hear more about all of you in more detail. This is really, really great. So you know what, let me go back for a second, and I will go back to talking about COVID. So, I'll put it out to all of you, really, what was it like this year in regards to, navigating health and safety for, folks enlisted, but also just in general, whatever comments you want to share, whatever experiences you had. And of course, Amir, I'd love you to focus more on, being on that ship and kind of, I'm assuming being kind of quarantined, so that you really can't leave, and, the horrors of people getting sick and how that was managed. So I'll just open the floor, and whoever wants to kind of speak up.
Okay,
Don't all
so
run. Oh, go ahead.
I'll start. Yes, when COVID struck here, we're all kind of in a shock. We did not know how to deal with it, because it's not only it's not only stopping our lives as far as being quarantined and social distancing, but also, we have a mission. We have to be prepared. If a war starts, nobody cares about safety protocols. You have to be prepared. And how do you do that in a time where so much of your everyday activities are stopped? And for us, difficulty was not only a social difficulty. Of course, we do not have to worry about our jobs or our financial security, but as far as our mission as soldiers, we have a big ship. Everyone's pretty young on the ship. There are a lot of technical maintenance that you have to do that is not up to us, up to outsiders coming in, and that's almost impossible to do. And if it's possible, everyone has to evacuate the ship to the far side of the deck and let them come in. It's very complicated. Also, our ship, to differ from U.S. ships, we are not meant to live on the ship for a long time. We have small, even the biggest ones, missile ships. We have small ships, are built for 2-3 weeks maximum to contain all of us. Especially at sea, we do not have enough beds for everyone. So usually what happens is when we're at sea, half of the crew is awake and half are asleep, so there are enough beds. And at shore, we manage because in the weekends most of the crew goes home, and a lot of the officers go home in the evening. So we manage with the beds, but we're not built to be there for a long time. And now we had to be there for months and months without leaving the dock, without leaving the ship. So it was very challenging. I think that what we did is we turned it around in a very, very positive way. We decided, okay, we can complain all we want. This is a world epidemic. It's not going away. We can count the days and suffer, but we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is see how everything that we want to do, everything that we used to do, we're going to do it, but in a new way. And I was open to everything. I told everyone, to the youngest soldiers, to the oldest officer, I am open to everything. Come here, suggest it, and we'll make it happen. And so we built 2 escape rooms on the ship. Like you have an activity and escape room that probably all of you know. So we did that on the ship. We locked them up in compartments in the rooms in the ship. And we told them, if you don't get out in an hour, you have to stay for the cleanup. So that was a great activity with perks like the team who won got to do a more interesting fire drill at sea, and we had to be for a very, very long time at sea, which we weren't used to, for 2-3 weeks, and we weren't used to doing that. So what we did, we had to drop anchor for the night just to save gas. So I did it in front of, I think, what is the most beautiful beach in Israel, in Atlit. And what we did is we made a big breakfast on the deck of the ship. And so it was a very memorable experience for everyone. And we took pictures. We just made it more memorable. And so many, many things like that we did. We usually have simulators where we simulate a war situation just to train. So we made those on the ship. And so it was a spirit now in the crew that everything is innovative, everything is creative. There's no, the answer no does not exist. The answer I can't does not exist. Tell me how you can do something that you want. I know the difficulties. I know what's impossible here. And that's how I think it was a great experience. I will say, we had a very hard time. I have crew members, older ones with families. And I have soldiers with problems at home. I have a fiance who was at home for a year without me. We postponed the wedding. We're getting married in 2 months. Yay. Finally, we're getting married, knock on wood. But I had to deal with that at home. And we still had our missions and everything was going. So it was a lot of pressure. Also, we had a few tragedies. I won't go into that. We had an officer not on my ship that committed suicide. Unfortunately, it didn't have anything to do with the army. He left a letter, but I had officers that was very, very good friends with him on my ship that could not leave, could not go to the funeral. It was very, very hard, devastating for them and for us. And I just learned that it's everything is up to your state of mind. If you're positive, if you know you can do something, we just find a way to do it. You will make it happen. And I wasn't working like that before. I'm a very critical person. I always say this should be better. This we need to do better. This needs to improve. And now my thoughts are, okay, these are my challenges. This is why something is hard. What can I do? How can I think differently to make it happen? And that's how COVID changed me and changed my crew. And so that's it. I think I spoke for a long time.
What a very, very powerful life lesson that we all can learn from, because and I have to say, I feel like that's the Israeli way in many cases, that Israel as a country and as a people often look at the possibilities and not the negative. And but I think we all in all of our lives, personal, professional, wherever, to draw from that attitude of coming at something with creativity and embracing it, like this is where we are and this is what we need to do. So I thank you. I mean, that's quite an experience. Very excited for you in 2 months. God bless. That's fantastic news. But thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else kind of want to comment on COVID and its Yaakov? Sure.
Yeah, Rivka's gonna get a lot of questions, so I'll go before Rivka.
There you go. You got to get some answers in there before she
There you go.
steals them.
There you go. So I'll say, first of all, on the military level, I was getting call from units
I
asking
think
for,
you did it like because what you said, that like
what?
the dog is taking all the floor, you know.
So I'll say, first of all, I was getting call from units asking for online motivational talks to the soldiers. And I gotta say, it was very hard because I'm sitting down talking to soldiers who are 3 months in the army, and they're on base for more time than I was in the 2014 Gaza war. I was 35 days away, maybe 40. That was like the most I did in my service for almost a decade. These guys are fresh, they're green, and they 60, 70 days straight without seeing anyone. And I told them, I don't know what to tell you guys. I mean, at least I was protecting my country, and you guys are just stuck there. So that's just on the military level. By the way, my brother-in-law told me he's a captain in one of the infantry units, and he has a lot of soldiers who ran away from the army, who have problems at home. And since there was nothing to do home, he said everyone came back. He said, soldiers, I forgot their name. They were ready to go to jail. They were 3 months away from the unit. They came back. They said, there's nothing at home. I can't work. I can't support my house. At least I'll be in the army. It's boring at home. On the personal level, I'll just say February 26 or 27 it was, I finished a very successful US speaking tour in Stamford. I stayed overnight by the Shield crowds. I saw many of the people here. It was like unbelievable. I landed back in Israel. It was like maybe the top of my professional career, right? Going around the US every day, different city. And suddenly, and my schedule was set till December 2020. Everything was booked, packed, and suddenly it all started collapsing. So now I had many Israeli schools that wanted to hear me, and I always said I'm busy with my international stuff. I said, okay, I'll talk to the schools. Boom, the system closed down. And like everything was closing on me, and suddenly you wake up in the morning, your kids are all around you, and there's nothing to do. Everyone remembers it, I assume. And I suddenly, I'll just say, talking about creativity, suddenly I get a call. My town, I live in the Golan, an agricultural town. One of the things we do, we sell flowers. We grow flowers. Forgive me for not remembering now the English name, Admoniot, who's going to help me, not peonies. There's flowers. You're not allowed to export them. They're stuck. The farmers here are stuck with flowers. And they came to me and said, can you help us build a whole, very quickly, we have 2 days to Pesach. We need to build a whole system. We need to sell the flowers. And I found myself overnight just learning very quickly. I didn't even know what the flowers look like. And for the rest of the month, I was selling flowers. And it was one of the most shocking things I ever did. I enjoyed it so much. I worked 40 hours straight at some point because it went viral. We made like this nice thing, flowers for sale. These are flowers. I'm trying to remember the name. I'll get it while we're doing it. It's flowers they don't sell in Israel. It's all exported, and everyone was. And I got to say, first of all, on the personal level, it taught me a lot about flexibility, about I could have said, what? A week ago, I was in Stamford wearing a suit and had a standing ovation. I'll sell flowers. And the next day, I felt such a privilege. I'm helping these people who are working their lands on the border. I was loving it. I mean, people were calling me in the middle of the night about flowers, telling me how much they love the flowers and how much water should I put in? Now, I don't even know what the flower looks like. And I'm like, yes, you're right. It's a beautiful flower. Maybe you should put in a thing of sugar. Like I learned all these tips. And then at some point I said, listen, I can't just do this. We built a program where we called it, I think, Flower Power. We fundraised it. We raised money from all over Israel and the world. People purchased flowers from us. We contacted soldiers who are on base for 40, 50 days. And we said, give us your parents' address, write us a letter. We're sending it to your parents. And we reached 300 to 400 soldiers who just said, thank you so much. Suddenly someone knocks on their parents' door. Your son, who's on his ship stuck in the middle of nowhere, sent you these flowers. So it wasn't just marketing flowers. It was also something that I felt like we can actually help these families and these soldiers.
That's beautiful. Oh my God. Yeah. All right, I'm verklempt. That's really quite powerful and very beautiful, and really does speak to the idea of kind of, again, embracing where you are and trying to, create something great. And that was just beautiful. All right, Rivka, that's a hard act to follow, but
Yeah, I will try. You took both of them, and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't come with both of them, because I know it's a hard act to follow. So I will try. Anyway, in the home front command, the thing is the home front command is equivalent to something like a FEMA with the National Guard and like a Task Force One and all kinds of things in the home front command. So we had a lot of things that we did during the COVID because we are the only ones that responsible for the population in Israel. The things that I did, I will start with the things that I did during the COVID-19 epidemic, and after that, the things that the Corps did. Me, in the beginning, we opened a civil aid center, which we just brought everyone. It was like a long time dream in Israel that we will bring all the municipal authorities and all the government offices and all the IDF units and like everyone. And of course, all the volunteer organizations and all of them, we just put them in one like very, very big tent. And everything that the municipal authority knew that someone need. For example, Sarah from Netivot, she needs someone to bring her food because she can't go out because she's above 65 years old and she can't get out to get food. So we just make sure that everyone gets everything. It's not only food, we also any shopping that they needed, and of course health care with all kinds of even soldiers that just sat there and called people that we know are lonely because we have all the information from the municipal authorities and the government offices. So in the beginning, I was the operation officer of the center. And after that, I was the commander of that center. After that, whoever follows me on Facebook saw that I got from the chief of staff of the IDF certificate on that. So it was probably one of the best and the most exciting moments of my service. But still, and this is how like the COVID-19 was the worst thing and the best thing, because the worst, we all understand why, but it was the first time that we just managed to take everyone and to get them to talk to each other and to do like everything that they could to the population of Israel. And it was just amazing. No egos, no one like, I'm responsible of that, I'm responsible of that. It was amazing to see. If you want, I will make sure that I will tell you more about it after. The second thing that I was responsible for, it was the food distribution in Jerusalem. We took, especially in the beginning, all the people that have health problems and all the people that above 65 years old, In some point, it was 55 even. And we just like took all kinds of troops from all kinds of units in the IDF and start to like take food and distribute it to whoever needs it, and also to whoever don't need it, but it's something else. It's not only the food stuff, but because when someone with the uniform, and we have the orange jacket that I really like because it's the color of the Home Front Command, when you're all closed at home, you don't see your grandchildren, you don't see your children, you don't see your sisters, your friends, and you close the inside, and then you see like a soldier or two that comes to your house, to your doorstep, gives you food, gives you whatever you need, and also listen to you. And it was part of the thing that when you come to someone, you ask him if he needs something, if he has everything, and lots of people just like ask all kinds of things that got back to us, and we solved in other places. So it was, I think, one of the best things that I could have done. I'm very excited about what it's amazing because you always thinking about, for example, I'm doing search and rescue. So of course, all my purpose in life is search and rescue. And even I went to Brazil twice, and after what happened there, and but now you have like something that it's like really to the core of the Home Front Command of helping citizens, and it was amazing in any level. Beside that, the Home Front Command did all kinds of things. We had, for example, all the hotels that people who have COVID needed to be isolated and didn't have any place to go, went there, and we were responsible for the hotels. Besides that, we had like 700 of medical personnel that we got drafted that helped with the vaccination of operation, and you understand, we did a lot. But everyone, and the thing is that before Yaakov said, I'm just the reserve. But the thing is that, for example, with us, we are like 5,000 people in the Home Front Command that are not reserved. We have like thousands and thousands of people that are reserved. Most of the stuff that we did was with our reserves, which are amazing and above anything that people can be. So that's it, I think. I digged enough.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, really, from a high level of trying to come up with systems and ways of getting to the people that need you, to the very core of that one single person that needs help. How that's so impactful. And I think that's we saw that here in the States too, in terms of just people in general really coming out and assisting other people. Like there was a lot of love in the air, a lot of like, let's make sure that people are taken care of. A lot of responsibility, Rivka. Wow, incredible. All righty. Menachem, if you want to say a few words, I don't.
Yes, I will. I mean, it's hard.
Sure.
It's hard to come up after Rivka. It's very difficult. I'm astonished myself. I was like, wow, very interesting. But there are just 2-3 points that I would like to highlight from my personal experience in the last year. Well, first of all, similar to what Rivka said, on a personal level, like as a citizen, there is something, obviously COVID is the high unemployment rate, the health situation, and obviously the uncertainty. How long is it going to take? If I tell you COVID would last for a year and a half, you'd be okay, a year and a half, and then I'd kind of sit at the time and look at the clock and say, hey, it's over. But then having these different waves and not knowing, is it working, is it working, really this uncertainty is that what kills us. Obviously also in the officer school, we learned that the uncertainty is the biggest enemy of the soldier. And so this uncertainty, I take it on a different level. First of all, I would like to say that personally, I came from a position where I used to work a lot 24/7 and I never had time for my kids. And I work in what we call the high-tech area in a cyber company, and you're dedicated to your work, that's it. And suddenly we realized that from at least the high-tech bubble, which is very strong in Israel, we shifted to home office. And suddenly this adjustment of working from home and me being the one, when possible, bringing the kids to kindergarten and then taking them away from kindergarten. And when we were all in quarantine, when there was no kindergarten, suddenly it was okay to take a couple of hours off work during the day just to spend time with your kids. And so obviously I speak with my kids also in English, so I taught them English and they learned how to write. I taught them how to solve the Rubik cube. If you guys know the Rubik cube, I don't know if that's how you call it in English. I taught my so I had a lot of time of investing into my family. And then I remember my wife told me, like, when we were talking about, hey, it's soon going to be over, she said, no, I don't want it to be over, because it's kind of, I don't want to go back to this routine, because we had such a nice, like, thank God we both had works where we can work from home, and we kind of have everything we need. Now, obviously, we want everyone to be healthy, and we want the situation to get over. But this, I think that something from COVID will stay, and I hope we will take the positive lesson here. And this is basically what I think that what Israel does very fast and very good is the ability to adjust yourself to the given situation as fast as possible. And General Petraeus, which is, you obviously know from the States, when the US invaded into Iraq, one of the questions he was confronted with, what is a good military? And his answer really was that it is the ability to adjust yourself to the given situation as fast as possible. Now, I would take the same notion and translate it into my company or any other company, and might it also be the education system we have in Israel. If you're not able to adjust yourself, you're just becoming obsolete. And also on a personal level, if you don't figure out, if you don't suck it in, hey, it's here to stay. Now deal with it. Now cope with it. So I think it kind of gives you, within the uncertainty, it gives you a certain, I'd say a pillar where you know, okay, wait, we're all in the same boat. Let's just adjust with it. And from my perspective in reserve, we do a lot of operations that we plan throughout the year, and we kind of hold the training towards very specific operations. And then we really had the question, wait, are we going to mix up with those people that are not in the reserve, that are still in active service? So it was a big dilemma. We managed to find a way, because once you were called into reserve duty, you were supposed to stay isolated for 2 weeks at least in the same bubble. And that's how the way that the military found to kind of adjust itself towards to stay operational, but also to keep the safety of the people here. And I think this is one of the lessons learned, is that really the ability to adjust yourself to the given situation as fast as possible.
You all bring me to tears in terms of the depth of your souls and how you speak and what you teach us. And, whether it's the IDF or the water, there's something about Israel that creates such strength. And thank you for sharing that, all of you, really. It's the same message over and over again, and a beautiful one. So why don't we do this? Why don't we open it up to, because I could ask questions forever, but I really want to share this experience with everybody else. So, we're a bit of an intimate group. So if you have a question, let's try to do it. Just take yourself off mute and ask a question, and we'll continue. I know it takes a while to take yourself off mute, so I'll give folks a second.
Meanwhile, I can say, Nancy, to get you to tears is not that hard.
It's true. But really, I am always so, my personal experience of being around all of you and Israelis, at least, in my experience, there's a depth to all of you, and a way of inspiring others just so richly and so deeply that I love being around that. It just speaks to my soul. So I just thank you for all that. And I know that folks out there in the audience also experience you that way. Is there anybody have a question? Because I can definitely ask more.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, go for it. Is that Isaac?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So the things that we've not heard about Israel, we've heard a lot about Israel and the vaccinations and so forth and so on. And it sounds like you really turned around the battle in terms of the ICUs being packed with sick patients, and now you've been aggressively vaccinating and so forth. But the one thing that I've not heard about is how COVID-19 has affected homeland security in a military way, and terrorism and tunnels and so forth. How has it diminished? Because people, let's say like Yaakov, when you came to us on the 26th of February, you were talking to us about probably the biggest change for Israel's security now at this point is that Iran is stricken with this COVID-19 and they're in big trouble. So they're bent on self-preservation as opposed to doing something bad to someone else. They're just interested in saving their own lives. So I would think that maybe that would put a kibosh on trying to inflict harm on Israel. So I'm just wondering, and we really have not heard anything in the media about this. So, maybe, I don't know if you can talk about it, you can't talk about it, so.
That's a great question, Isaac. Thanks for speaking up, because that was on my mind in terms of, I think even in the States, the idea of people being distracted by having to deal with, COVID, there's a little bit of fear and fright that it opens up doors as well, for some conflicts. So anybody want to jump right in?
I'll say, I don't know what Rivka and Amir are allowed to say, so I can say whatever I want.
Woo!
There you go. First of all, I'll say, when you look at the numbers, the past year has been the quietest in maybe even decades in Israel. And that's a lot because of COVID. Gaza is still focused on COVID. Iran, I'll talk about in a second, but you can't just say, oh, it's just because of course, it's also because we did a good job, but it's mainly because of COVID. When I was in February in Stanford last year, I was telling people, listen, this COVID thing, which we're hearing about in China, just so you know, it hit Iran big time. And that might be a game changer because it hit Iran at a time where we had, I would say, a second wave of riots of what we used to call the Arab Spring or the Islamic Winter. The second wave was hitting Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Iran, and tens of thousands of people were out in the street protesting against the Iranian regime. Together with COVID and people dying, it gave some hope that maybe the regime will, and Qasem Soleimani was assassinated just like a month before, if I remember correctly. So everything together gave us a lot of hope that this will maybe put so much pressure on Iran that they can't move forward. It did two things in the first stage. It cut off the demonstrations because people couldn't gather together, which was good for the regime. On the other hand, it did sort of slow things down, meaning we saw for a few months very positive signs that Iran is so focused on COVID, just like we were, that, for example, a few miles away from me in Syria, everything was like standing in place. The whole world was standing in place, and same was that. Unfortunately, after a few months, Iran is back. I wouldn't say, I'll say in full power. The best thing I can just to explain it is the planes that fly, some planes, I don't know whose planes, fly over my house every time you hear abroad that something was hit in Syria. And it's been happening a lot in the past 3-4 months. So Israel is someone is very active in Syria and in other places, according to foreign reports. And that means the Iranians, even though they're struggling, even though their economy is collapsing, even though COVID has hit them big time, they're determined. They're very determined.
Thanks, Yaakov.
As far as we, the Navy, are concerned, I don't feel any change, to be honest. Again, I'm not like I used to be when I was in Tzahal, Shalom. I'm not in the Gaza Strip anymore. I was in the third flotilla, so we dealt with more strategic issues, and in that aspect with Iran, things have not changed. I'm only saying that because it has been published in our news recently. campaign that's been going on for a few years, in which we're trying to prevent important resources coming from Iran to Syria. I think our biggest problem right now, as far as everything, homeland security or anything else, is we don't have a proper government. We are almost at our 5th elections now. We cannot decide on anything here, the Israelis. We are 4 Israelis here. I bet we voted for 4 different parties, even though we share the same values, even though we are friends, but I bet we voted for different people. And it's a big problem. It's a huge problem. We are very, very divided right now, and every issue is brought to the extreme, and the conversation is not a good one, and communication is not healthy between us citizens. And I think it's a matter of time. If we don't get it together, we're going to have a problem. Eventually, your enemies try to capitalize on your weakness, and that's our biggest weakness right now. Hopefully, I'm sorry, I'm just not optimistic on this. I would say we can come together, but it won't happen soon, unfortunately. And that's my main concern. That's what I worry about now. And I have time to worry. I'm a student now, so I get to worry.
Thanks, Amir. Anyone else have any comment to Isaac's question? Well, I'm thrilled to hear that it's been a little bit, less activity going on, but I have to say, when, you get a little nervous about, just a little nervous when people are desperate, right? And when people are preoccupied with other things, always makes me a little nervous. All right, anyone else have a question? Don't be shy.
Mine's more of a statement than a question, but maybe we can talk about it. I liked what Menachem said about promoting Zionism, which I think is what got me so into this program. We hosted 4 years ago a soldier, and from then on I just loved the program, and I loved how my kids who went to Jewish day school here learned about Israel and were able to go there with school, and we went, and how we bridged that gap from being Jews in Connecticut to being in Israel with people who were also, not everyone was Jewish, but Jews, and really just how different our experiences are, and how we all want to promote, Zionism, but really how different your experiences are than ours here. And my husband and I were just really shocked at how different, those of you that were raised in Israel, the difference in your experiences growing up, living over there and dealing with, the war, or, the missiles. And I just found it very interesting that we were able to bring that into our home and experience that. And I think that's what's so important about this program, is kind of helping bridge that gap for those of us in Stanford that love Israel and love, and want to keep it going.
I want to say something about that. In that matter, I think we are underused as people who are in Tzahal Shalom and who love you and the community. And as far as promoting Zionism, we all here are trying to be less apologetic about everything. We're being judged under the microscope unfairly. I'm sorry to say, I won't be diplomatic here. There are so many huge humane problems in the world, and we are the ones being inspected. When we can all witness here during wartime how much we are careful, how much we try to avoid doing any harm, and it inflicts so much damage upon us. But we have our values, which we won't compromise. And still, now the Hague Court of International Warfare Laws is trialing Israel once again. And it won't stop. We shouldn't hope for it to stop. We just should stop apologizing, explain ourselves, and tell everyone who has a problem with us defending ourselves, telling them, I'm sorry, I'm not counting on you to defend me. I'm not counting on you to save me. I'm counting on myself. We are a very young country, super young country. And you guys should use us more. If the children who could be 20 or more doing a Taglit birthright, or if they have a school trip visiting here, talk to us on Zoom. We didn't used to think about it, but now it's so easy. Just FaceTime, talk, from recommendations of where to go if you want to meet, or even if at school there was a problem, in college, in high school, someone said something, I didn't feel comfortable, they showed something on the news, I didn't know what to say about it, talk to us. We are here for you. And in that matter, I think you can use us more.
That is music to my ears, my friend. Thank you for that. And the power of Tzahal Shalom in our community is great. And having your voices here year after year is really important. And if you recall, going into the high schools that had no idea, like even where Israel was on the map, or anything about other than possibly headlines, if they even read the headlines, depending on the audiences we spoke to. That is why Tzahal, other than that personal connection with host families and with the community, but with each of those students, is so, so incredibly important, because it does open up people's minds in terms of learning about Israel and hearing about Israel in a different way. And Yaakov, the work that you do, let's talk a little bit about Slingshot and the work that you do. And part of what you do really is allowing for folks that are typical tourists. See, like, I love that you said, whether they're, wherever they're from, whether they're Jewish or not, they've come to Israel. That is a wonderful, teachable moment for people to be in the shoes of Israel and have to figure out, how do you deal with some of these very conflictual situations, and how does the values and the ethics of what the IDF stands for, how does that come into play? And so it kind of gives an opportunity, again, much like Sahal's purpose, that's part of your mission. And so can you speak to that a little bit?
So I guess if I would take the idea of when I started thinking towards the end of my service about Slingshot, before I even knew I'm going to call it Slingshot, I'd probably take basically a Tzahal Shalom paper, and that would be the same thing. For me, and I think I said it also when I was in Stanford in February, it was really a life-changing experience. And I learned a lot about how to, let's put it this way. This is what I learned from Tzahal Shalom, which I basically implanted into Slingshot programs. First of all, I learned that the IDF is, on one hand, Israel's sexiest brand. Everyone wants a piece of it. If you're right-wing, if you're left-wing, if you're liberal, if you're conservative, if you're pro-Israel, if you're anti-Israel, everyone wants a taste of it. Everyone wants to understand it. And when you say the word IDF, the ears open up. The second thing I realized through my experience in Stanford, when I saw the reactions, is that it's Israel's greatest educational tool. When I come from the military perspective, I can touch almost any topic on earth, which if I wouldn't come from that perspective, you'd say, get out of here. If I would come now to an 11th grader and say, let's talk about Jewish identity, right? You're coming to Israel, let's have a discussion. And say, oh, come on, not again. And then I say, wait, no, come. I want you to relive together with me the most incredible story in the history of the IDF. I want a piece of that. And I'm giving him Jewish identity without him noticing it, because he's going through a military experience. I realized that, unfortunately, some people, we don't even talk the same language. And so what I realized in Stanford, when I went into the high schools and the college with Amir and Rivka and others, I met so many people that don't know anything. I have the 10% that no matter what I'll do, they'll support me. I have 10% that no matter what I'll do, they'll be against me. And these 10% are very loud. And I'm wasting all of my energy on those 10%. And I realize I have 80% of public college people who just don't know. And I need to do two things. One, I can bring myself into there. But also, that's the second thing, when I meet people from Stanford, and everyone here supports us, I'm not preaching to the choir, because if I can really give them a significant experience, they'll pass it on. They'll know what to do with those 80%. I can't meet all the 80%. And so what I do in Slingshot in different ways is either I meet those people who don't know, or when I meet those who support us, I basically give them an experience that they'll take with them and they can use it. And so it doesn't always have to be about the moral dilemmas we like discussing, even though that's what I do with bicultural when they come. It's also giving them a feeling of what does it mean to be a soldier protecting the border with Syria with boots on ground. And things like Amir and Rivka discussed, when I'm emotionally connected to the story, when it's not IDF, I can imagine a face behind it, and that's what Shalom does. Right? When I hear there's a tension at the border, then Karen right away thinks, wait, what's with Amir, right? She has a face. And that's what you're trying to do. You try really making them, here's the faces behind the headlines, come feel what they feel and take it with you.
Beautifully said. Wow, beautifully said. Thank you, Yaakov, really. So cut out to doing what you're doing. You are. Anyone else have any question?
I have a question.
Fantastic. And who's that? Just
AC,
because I'm...
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi. First of all, I want to thank you all for sharing your stories and experience for COVID. It's very moving and inspiring. What I'm noticing in my field is that things are changed forever. They're not going back once COVID is over to the way it was. So I was wondering if any of you can say something and how you think COVID has changed the IDF moving forward, something significant.
Thanks, Stacy. That's a great question.
I have to say it again, Rivka.
What are good friends for? Put her on the spot.
Yeah, and I need to talk after Yaakov. You see, it's like, don't do that for it. Yeah, anyway, first of all, we learned that we don't need to go everywhere. The thing is, even if we had like something like 30 minutes to sit with someone, we just drove all the country from side to side to see them. So I think not only in the army, but look at us. Like we all the time, I'm like, when do I get to go there and when I'm going to see them? And we found how to do that. And besides that, I think that at least I can talk about the Home Front Command and actually other units also. The army is very like, exactly like happened before. It's the defense part, the attack part, and what we do to defend our borders and like war and stuff like that. And I think COVID-19 really brought the population to the center and the understanding of mental health and the taking care of mental health, not only of the population, but also of the soldiers. I talked all the time in my previous position, I all the time talked about the mental health of the soldiers. We see like dead bodies in very bad shape and it takes a toll. And you like, of course, in another country with another things, and mental health became a very, very big deal in our corps and of course in others. And Menachem went away.
Yes, well, hopefully he'll get connected again. Yeah.
It was really weird for a minute. And so I think it really brought the mental health thing to the table. It brought all the technology that it was before, but now it's a little bit more profound in the organization. And the thing that I think was the best thing, except from those two, was the collaboration between units, the collaboration with other organizations that aren't army organizations, such as volunteers and stuff like that. So I think it was like, it really just took a minute, like it took to all the population to think about their families and to where they put the workload in their life and then to put the family first and stuff like that. And it just did a little bit of a rethinking of a lot of things. I think good rethinking. That's it, I think.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Connie, if I can bother you, because Menachem went away and came back, I think that the view has shifted. Has it shifted for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Connie, do you think that you can see? I made Menachem spotlight, but let's see if we could spotlight everybody else as well. Again, sorry everybody for a little technical snafu, but I know we want to see these fabulous faces once again.
Right.
as
Blame
we're
Menachem. What do you care? Blame him.
Wonderful. So, does anybody have any other comments to answer that last question? Please feel free. I see that our time is kind of coming to a close, but let's see.
Saved a lot. One of the most frustrating things, I think Rivka mentioned it, as an officer, is that you have to drive all around the country to meetings, which sometimes you're not even relevant for. And suddenly the Army has a military Zoom, and my friends who are now all lieutenant colonels commanding, they said so much time is saved. Talk about mental health or mental strength. I think for soldiers now, after being away from home for 60, 70 days, it's like, okay, guys, we're staying in for the weekend. Who cares? Fine. You know, after that, been there, done that. I think it built something in them also.
Yep, for sure, for sure.
Yaakov, you are more than welcome to come to 70 days of like, you know, and we will see.
Rivka, I want you to see if you can do 30 days of lockdown with the girls here.
No,
That might be harder.
good. I'm good. It's all good.
Yaakov, the Army prepared you well. See you as well, Menachem. Wonderful. All righty. Is there one last burning question? Anybody in the audience? I really want to make sure that those that are joining us have, have the opportunity to ask questions or, speak, because this is a rare, wonderful opportunity.
I should, Connie here and Alan. We were a Tzahal family in 1997. So, and seeing you all today and listening to you, hearing, the gamut of what you talked about, it just brings back always the feeling that we've had since 1997. And we're still in touch with our soldier. And it's just such a meaningful program. And I want to thank all of you for continuing it. And let's continue this dialogue going forward. Now we can say we've got Zoom. There's no reason that we can't be in touch. So, toda rabah.
Amen, Connie. Thank you for that. I echo what you're saying. This has been a wonderful, wonderful experience for us, a real treat. But as you've offered, and I hope it's okay for all of you, if we could call upon you again, we would love to reconnect and kind of keep that connection going. Again, I know so many of us are hoping to get to Israel at some point, and Tzahal Shalom is hoping to have a new delegation come, next spring. But meanwhile, we're just thrilled that we have this connection. It is truly meaningful and impactful. And the work that you do and your time with us is deeply meaningful and really alters everyone's experience here in Stamford. So we appreciate that. I'm going to make a pitch for those of you who are able. As you know, the JCC Tzahal Shalom program was originated by a small group of forward-thinking folks who really had a strong commitment to Israel and knew that once you kind of touch and feel and see the face of Israel, that connection will grow. And it has been sustained all these years solely through the commitment of our community. The fact that it's still around is because our community, members, non-members, you don't need to be a JCC member to really have this strong sense of the value that this program brings to our community. And so I'm going to ask if you're able to donate and contribute to this program so that we can ensure that it is with us for years to come, and we can ensure that other families have this experience, but also so that other officers have this experience. You know, I hear very loud and clear the impact that the experience that you four had here in Stamford was meaningful and impactful to you as well. And I know, because I've heard you guys talk about this, how much it has impacted those around you. I mean, I think you know you are so loved and so supported here in Stamford. And if you can share the love and share that sense of we are one huge family, and that we deeply appreciate, respect, and quite frankly, inspired and in awe of the things that you have all accomplished and the work that you are all doing continuously, it is so incredible. So we want to thank you so much for being with us today. Again, sending love to all of you and your families, and wishing you good health and prosperity. And as the world opens up, and as you know, as we're able to kind of come and go a little bit more, we hope to see you soon. And just great appreciation. And for those of you who have joined us this morning, thank you for taking time out of your morning to spend time with us.